I'll come in first if that's okay. I just wanted to like sort of like ask you about sort of your experiences in football and sort of starting out. Like, where does your journey sort of begin? I know people start at different ages, like,
Yeah.
different things like that. So where did you sort of like begin your football journey and sort of how have you progressed from there?
So I come from quite a football family. I mean, I'm not saying they're amazing footballers because they're not. My dad blames me for the fact that he didn't make it as a professional. The birth of me apparently stopped that, but who knows? But yeah, my granddad, he played football. He was kind of like through the ranks of Arsenal. My
Wow.
mum, hella sporty, hockey, everything really, gym freak. So my granddad, rugby, cricket, yeah. So like everyone in my family was like sporty, really, apart from my brother who actually rebelled. Um, so it started off really just my dad just took me over the local park. And I've said this so many times. He used to kick the ball up in the air, and I miscontrolled it every single time. And I'm not somebody that likes not being good at things. So I stormed off many times, and yeah, said, "I'm not going back, Dad. I'm not going back." And he was like, "You will." And obviously I did. And it kind of all started from there. There was a local boys team that played on that pitch. And one time I kind of plucked up the courage to like just join in. At the beginning there was no other girl, but as it kind of like as I progressed there was one other, but she didn't really continue the path that I did anyway. It got to a point where I kind of was playing Saturdays with the boys and Sundays with like a local girls team, which I found. And then yeah, my dad's a West Ham fan, so this is hard for him to say, but Tottenham, I kind of went for a little trial at Tottenham and I got in at Tottenham at under 10s. And the league was like I was playing against like Luton, so places that were actually kind of that part of the country. Not even like that, that's close really, but you know what I mean. Like Stevenage, Luton, it was kind of those teams. It was like more North London based in that way. We didn't play like centre of excellence teams like the Arsenals, the Chelseas at the time. It was very like, yeah, just standard girls football. And it was my first real experience of people and female girls at the time like enjoying football, which I found like crazy because I thought maybe I was the only one in because there was just mainly more boys. Um, and then I knew that well, my mum and my dad were like, let's try somewhere else. So I went to Charlton. They were a centre of excellence. So like at that time, they were a better option to go to. I'm Essex based, so it was like just over the bridge, kind of not too bad to get to. And I was there for 2 years, and I played with some really good players. To be fair, I got my first England under 15 call up at 13 when I was at Charlton. Basically, I think Rianne Skinner had given me a phone call, and she was like, "We're interested in you." And then yeah, I signed for Tottenham, and they protect me for sure. You know, they look after me, and they know what my history is, and they've we've just started to get a proper psychologist in, and like I just know that I'm kind of in a safe place there, and that's what I need to be able to play football at my best. I need to know that I might cry, I might get upset, I might have bad days, good days, I don't know, but I'm still Molly, and I will still give you 150% as soon as I step on that pitch on that Sunday if I get the chance. It doesn't matter what kind of. That's what I've learned through my mental health. Is in the past I couldn't even perform at the weekend, but now I'm strong enough to know, okay, maybe I've had a bad week, but I know that I can play at the weekend, and that's going to be those 90 minutes. Those well these days 100 minutes, but like that time I will 100% be able to switch off from anything that's going on in my life, and I can just focus on that. And I think Tottenham have kind of given me like the trust and belief that I can do that. So like I'm really thankful for them. But yeah, so that was quite long-winded, but that was my kind of football journey.
No, that's a really interesting sort of journey, and like so many others, even like young girls as well, who sort of are in that football world and sort of
Yeah.
struggle with that and maybe don't have the opportunity to hear these stories and things like that. So,
Yeah.
being open is just so important to them. And obviously we'd love to like Lily's got a couple of questions sort of about that and sort of your work, sort of being an advocate and things like that. But
Yeah.
I do just want to quickly touch on sort of you're at Spurs at the moment. It pains me because me and Lily are Arsenal fans, but what you're doing at Spurs in terms of the team as well. Like obviously we're speaking we're lucky to be able to speak to Robert as well this week. So he's been such a
Amazing.
big support of what we're doing at Beyond the Pitch, and he seems like a really good character, and he seems like what he's building there is at Spurs is, you know, you're really going somewhere. You're at Wembley, you know, you've achieved so much. Like what has it been like at Spurs in terms of like the sort of since Robert came in as well, like sort of play style, like for you, like have you like you probably enjoyed every minute of it, but just a little bit about sort of your experience, especially since you've sort of really built this strong group as well.
Yeah, I think, you know, obviously Rianne left and there was like, we were fighting to stay in the league. Like we were in a relegation battle at the end of the day. And to go from being in a team of a relegation battle to being in a team that's going to Wembley in an FA Cup final is like, boom. So like, you know, experience wise with football, like that's probably the best experiences really, because you know how it feels like to be rock bottom as a club, and then you know how it feels like to potentially go and win trophies. Like that's ultimately where Tottenham want to get to. We know that it's not going to be like a big leap. It's going to be a process. You know, Robert's well aware of that. Obviously, him coming in for me, he put confidence and trust in me. And to be fair, the playing style is right up my street. You know, like I'm a centre back that likes to play, and that's what he wants to do. So it suits me really well. And I remember having really good conversations with him, even, you know, at the beginning of the season as well, like that this is the way we want to play. And for me, it wasn't like, oh gosh, I can't do that. That was like, oh, this is my bread and butter. This is what I want to do too. So, you know, we kind of connected in that way. And you know what it's like, this is going to sound stupid, but Scandinavians are chilled, aren't they? You know, like I've played with enough Scandinavians to know them. They bring a different culture to the group. You know, I think English people, we're passionate, but sometimes we can be different. I've had enough managers to know that are English. So like, it's a different vibe and different environment from just his aura. And I think that was important for the group to kind of feel that. Especially, you know, as I said, going through a relegation battle, which is tough for any group of players. You know, you can rebel against each other then. You really can. And we didn't. And that shows you the group that we had. And then it shows you that, you know, a few signings coming in, a new manager, a new style of play, a new identity. And then all of a sudden, look at what Tottenham can do. And that's the amazing part of football. But Robert's been, you know, really good to me in that way. And he put a lot of belief in me, especially at the start of the season. The one thing that I do want to add is like the group that we had was an amazing group of people. And I think sometimes that can be really rare. But every single person, like, they're just such a good humans. And like, I felt like every day, like it was so easy to go in because, you know, you got a Charlie Grant who constantly smiles, you know, like you can't help, like, what can you do?
Representation.
Like, you know, yeah, there we go. Do you know what I mean? Like, what can you do? Like, she's smiling. I can't feel bad when she's just smiling along. You know what I mean? Like, you've got so many different personalities, but it kind of worked. Yeah, I mean, obviously, big shout out to Charlie because she's the best. But like, you know, like you've got some amazing people in that group, and you know, Martha, for example, like, you know, she had to come from Man United and prove herself, and she scored the goal. She did what she needed to do. But yeah, you know, new signings came in, even young, like middle-aged. Like you have to have a type of group to, you know, invite people in, make them feel comfortable. And I think that's what we definitely developed at Tottenham this year as well.
Yeah, and I think like from the outside, it really feels that way as well. Like, you know,
you can definitely see it. You can definitely see it when watching games and stuff like that.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad.
I think this is only the start. So how we see it is like, you know, we don't exactly want, you know, Spurs to be doing well as a team, but you know,
those like that North London derby,
you know, those North London derbies, those ones that we've come into and expected to win, is just not going to happen anymore. So you made it exciting for us. Maybe we'll get a North London derby FA Cup final or something like that this year. That'd be great.
That would be good.
We'd love that.
That would be good.
That would be good. Obviously, you talking about sort of your experiences and being open, and what we're trying to do at Beyond the Pitch is sort of give a platform for that, because I know that there's so many outlets out there that are just trying to pick on the stories at the top that will get them the clicks and the views, and that's not the truth. That's not the real like heart of what women's football is. You know, we know women's football is different in every way because of how much it's helped people, and even the fans or the players or the coaches or anybody, you know, everyone's got their own reason for connecting with women's football, even if they never played football, even if they have. You know? And like, obviously you'll have seen, you know, over your career, sort of women's football change drastically. And, you know, in terms of like mental health, like how much do you think that's changed since you first got into women's football? And do you think we've still got further to go, if that makes sense?
We've definitely got further to go. 100%. But I actually don't know if there's ever an end.
Mm.
Why? Like, my experiences through mental health, my experiences through my life have made me the person I am. And I think I can't change that. You know, I can't change the person I am. Why would I? And I think the main thing that I've realised through all of my mental health is to just care and to show you care.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the time I actually put people before myself. I've heard that a lot, but I think that's just the person I am. And I think that's what I want to do, you know, after football, is help people. Like, that's why I speak out about my mental health, because I am trying to put myself out there, but more in a way because I want to protect people, that they don't go through what I go through and have been through. I don't want that. I don't want that for women's football. I don't want that for anybody in life. So that's why I speak out. That's why I show, you know, my story, and for people to read it and maybe relate, to go, no, I don't want that. But it's amazing that Molly can speak about it, because I want to change too. And, you know, I still get help very often, to be honest. I still struggle with anxiety. I don't think that will ever leave me. But there's days where you can be good and there's days where you can be bad, but it's just about controlling yourself. And I think in football, I've learned to deal with my emotions so much better. And that's from, you know, working on myself. That's not from just going, oh yeah, tomorrow I'm going to be good. Like, that's from seriously working on myself, that I control myself a little bit better. You know, like, more than anything, I want people to feel like, you know, I've got their back and they've got mine. But I do think there's a lot of work that the game needs to do. And I think when you look at what's happening week in, week out, sellout crowds, more publicity, you know, the Lioness is getting constant media attention. Like, are you telling me that they're not going to sit there and, you know, struggle? Of course they're going to. It's natural. And I think to make sure that we have the right support and the right kind of education around it, then that's the best way to progress the game too. You can't just have 85,000 people and then not understand how mental health can be impacted by that. You know, like, you know, sell out crowds, like, you know, playing at Wembley or playing in North London Derby at Arsenal, which, you know, Arsenal are proving it. You know, fair play to them. Like, they're proving it week in, week out with the crowds they're getting. But no one prepares you to play in front of 45,000 people. You know, all of a sudden you look up and I'm like, where's my mum and dad? Oh, God, I don't know. You know, like, nobody prepares you for that. And they don't prepare you if you make a mistake in that game, or, you know, the little things that happen. But what you can have is somebody at the club constantly. And I don't know if every club in the WSL has psychologists, counsellors. I'm not sure. Obviously, Tottenham have begun the process, and we have somebody, and she's amazing. But I think every club needs to have it. I think people need to talk more openly about it. I don't think it should ever be seen as a weakness, because I don't understand how it is. Like, don't get me wrong, there's been stages where I've thought, is it a weakness of mine? And I still sometimes do think that. But at the same time, to talk openly about something that's so personal isn't easy. You know, it literally isn't just about me. It's about my family too. It's about what they experienced. So, like, in that way, like, I only want to help people, but it's doing it in the kind of the right way. But I still think mental health has grown a lot within the women's game. You are seeing people talk, you know, Beth Mead, Viv Miedemar, like, you know, they're doing parts of it. Like, you are seeing people start to, you know, really believe in how we can make the game a better place. And that's what you want to see. But of course, there's still a long way to go. Like, it's probably the same in the men's, you know, it doesn't really matter. Of course, we're a little bit behind, but, you know, we're going to get there. And I think, you know, I'm 28 now and I wish I was 20, because I think what the young girls now are going into is an actual game now. It's a life. It's a job. Whereas before, it wasn't any of those things, and there wasn't the protection around it. So, like, now we're looking at, you know, a game that can develop into being as powerful as the men's game, but that comes with a lot of danger. You see the abuse that the men are getting already at the Euros. Maybe they're prepared for that. And it seems like maybe they are with interviews, but interviews are very easy because you can lie. So, you know, I'll be saying that they're even mentally prepared for it? Probably not. So, like, in that way, the women's game is going to, if it's going to go the rate the men's have gone, we need to make sure that we've got everything. And that's not just about the mental side of the game, that's the physical side of the game. Have we got all the right physios, the right doctors, you know, the right S&Cs, the right, you know, coaches? Like, have we got everything to make this game actually grow? Like, we can't just build one without the other, you know? kind of thing. So like in that way, like I'm looking forward to seeing what happens in the next 10 years with women's football. I'm just praying. That's why I want to talk about mental health and open up about it, because I'm praying that we're thinking about that too.
And for those young girls as well that are sort of like, obviously the game has grown massively, and we and on the positive side, that means that they can do this as a career, and this could be that their dreams could come true. But on the other side, there's so much talk about how can we prepare them for what's to come, and sort of like from your perspective, like what sort of advice would you give those young people? Because obviously the game has changed since you were there, and that's a good thing in the growth aspect. But is there any advice you'd sort of give them if they're starting out sort of at grassroots level, or even before that, sort of if they're wanting to pursue a career in football and they're wanting to be like open about their sort of mental health and things like that? Like, is there anything that comes to mind in terms of advice that you would give them?
I think, like, for me, like, I'm playing professional football and I suffer. Does that not say it all? Like, it doesn't matter. I think you just have to understand yourself. You just have to know that you've got the right support, the right people around you, the right education to be able to perform. And, there's going to be days and there could be times where you can't and you might quit. I have, but I'm still back, and that's the thing. That's what I think is, if I'm honest, this sounds deep, but the reason why I believe I'm still here is because of football. Don't get me wrong. A big part of it sent me the direction where I didn't want to go, but it saved me at the same time now. Like, did I ever think I was going to be a professional footballer when I was a kid? No, I didn't really know I could. But even when I knew I could, I still didn't think I would because of my mental health. So now I look at it and I'm like, if anything, if I can do it, and I don't see myself as the strongest person in the world, I see myself as a normal ginger from Romford. I'm not any different to anybody else that walks down the road. If I can do it, then anybody can do it. And that's what I think young girls need to know. And that's just not even just the mental health aspect, that's the football aspect too. If you've got enough passion and enough belief and you want it enough, you will get it. So either way, it's the passion, it's the belief, it's the determination to want to fulfill something that will get you where you want to go. So I guess that's my kind of like thought process in that. And it's not easy. Life's a roller coaster. It's as simple as that.
Touching back on the past a little bit, I read your piece that you wrote in 2022. I think it was Anna, I don't know if I've mispronounced that. Anna. And it was beautiful. It was very vulnerable. Obviously, it would have taken a lot to open up so much about that. But in it, you did quote, I don't think the culture of football is fully equipped to deal with these issues among the players. We've made a lot of progress in the area of mental health, but there's still more work to do. Obviously, knowing that was written in 2022, and it's a bit of a hefty question, sorry. In your experience, how can sports like organisations foster a more open and supportive environment for discussing mental health issues? And being from 2022, how has it changed and developed since writing that piece?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely developed. We're seeing a lot more of it on social media, and I think that's the main thing. I think, when people go on their phones, what do they look at? TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. Like, that's what people look at. So the more exposure you have, the more kind of normal it becomes. That's the case for women's football. All of a sudden, people are seeing it on TV. Oh, I've never watched women's football before. Let me watch it. Boom, boom, boom. Then it starts. So, like, writing that piece, I definitely think there's been a change. So I'm super glad about that. Do I still think we're equipped? I still think there's more we can do. Like, I think a lot of people see footballers as maybe like superhuman sometimes. And, what I see, I'm not an international, and what I see some of the internationals go through in their bodies isn't healthy. A lot of them don't really get breaks. And I think it's crazy because there's nothing your body needs more than a mental break and a physical break. Yeah. I would say I'm lucky to not be an international, because that's a lie, because I would dream of being international. But in a way, my body is allowed to rest. This summer for me already has been the best thing I could possibly have had, because I went through a really horrible end to the season. I was really ill and I didn't really understand what's going on with my body. And, I've needed that time, and I've needed this summer just to go, what I'm doing my sessions and doing my off-season program, but I'm okay, and I'm taking every day as it comes, and I'm taking a mental break and I'm taking a physical break in that way. And I think that's crazy that I'm watching, you know, and seeing the internationals not get much time off, and then all of a sudden they're into another pre-season again. I mean, mentally that's tough anyway. And everyone's different, you know, everyone's different. Everyone's like, some people can equipped and can deal with it, and some people can't. But I think writing that piece, like, it was deep, it was tough. Obviously a lot of it's, you know, it's about my family in there too, and you know, my brother's like my best friend, so to write about him was, you know, quite hard. Although, you know, he actually is just more like, as long as you're happy, and you know, I'm happy to be part of it. But you know, now seeing women's football, I'm so glad that I'm seeing change, because when I wrote that I was a bit scared. And that's from my own experiences too, and from hearing about other people's experiences. I still think there's a long way to go in how we talk to people, and how we kind of like understand others. You know, like at Tottenham, like I'm not afraid. I said I'm not afraid to cry. Like at one point we had to talk in front of people, and I would openly every single time admit that I've struggled for mental health. Why would I not? Because that's a huge part of who I am. You know, like some people may say something else. For me, that's the natural thing to say is, yeah, I've suffered, but guess what? You know, after football, I want to help people, and I want to change that persona of it. I don't want it to be seen as, oh, Molly, the mental health person, or, oh, you've suffered with depression or anxiety or anorexia. That, you know, no. I'm trying to help people stop going that way instead. So yeah, obviously it was, you know, it feels like a lifetime ago that I wrote that piece. But because life goes so quickly. But yeah, like I definitely think there's been a change, which I'm glad about. But I still think, yeah, we can do a lot more. And education, going into clubs, you know, for me, like I've looked at it and I've gone, why, you know, every year we should have an expert going in and talking about mental health to a club. You know, the PFA do an element of that, but I'm talking, you know, specific mental health expert coming in, you know, explaining that, you know, these things happen. Like, you've got to understand, in football, you get dropped, you play, you get injured, you get ill. Yeah, it's up and down, up and down, up and down. You lose, you win, like you score an own goal. Like, these things aren't easy. I remember scoring the own goal at the stadium against Man United, and I cried. And then after the game, we went to see our family and friends in the area, and I looked up and Sky Sports is there, and there's a video of me crying live on Sky Sports. And I was like, you know, like, this is the life I live now. Yeah. I showed emotion on the pitch, and you know, that's what happens. Like, I'm not afraid. I'm not scared to say that. I was, when I seen social media start tagging me and stuff. Then I was like, okay, I did something really, really bad. I was more worried what my teammates thought of me than the entire world, to be honest. I was more worried that I let my team down, and that's what made me upset. But that just shows you the growth of the game, because in the past, that's never even like, nobody even cared.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, people care, you know, and people do see these things, and they're not afraid to post and downgrade you a little bit, you know.
Yeah, and on social media as well, like touching on that, like obviously, especially within women's football, we've seen this massive growth of like social, like women's football on social media, and like in some ways that's amazing, because you know there's so much like engagement and like the positive side. But if we, you know, I hate to keep going on to that negative side, but if we think about that, you know, like you're coming out and you're talking about, you know, your personal lives, but there's always that, like, you know, everything's on social media. You know, you, like you say, you make a mistake, you go on social media, everyone's talking about it. You know, fans, you know, define themselves as passionate just because they want to, you know, say that you know that they're upset that this has happened and it's affected the result. And when you try and think about it, like in terms of like social media, it can be a dangerous thing, can't it, at times?
Yeah, definitely. And I'm not lying when sometimes I've gone on Twitter and I've been tagged and I'm like looking at it and I'm reading it. And that's probably the worst thing I could possibly do. And trust me, there's been times when my mum's grabbed my phone and gone, "What are you doing?" Like,
yeah,
like, don't. No one, those people are minor to you, you know. But I am somebody that cares about what everybody thinks of me. So like, that's a bit tougher on me. But yeah, social media can be the devil, like in every way. We're talking anorexia, it can be the devil, because some people look amazing on social media, you know, and you compare and you're like, I don't look like that. I did many times when I was younger. If I'm honest, I still do now a little bit. There's some, you know, amazing people out there that you kind of like wish you know, you look like or whatever sometimes. And I'm not proud to say that at all. Like, I'm almost embarrassed to say that, but I think I've always been a bit like that, and I'm working on myself with that. You know, I still feel like I need to learn to really, really love myself the way I am and the human I am. And I feel like that's what I mean by everyone's growing. And I feel like you should never be afraid to know that, you know, and for young girls, like, don't be afraid to have those moments where you kind of a bit stuck at, you know, where you're at as a person, because everybody experiences it. It's just if you're honest enough to say it. But I think obviously I don't actually know where I've ever and why I am. I couldn't actually tell you, because I have so much of me that is so scared of what people think of me. But I just have this, I guess, like a real passion and belief inside me that if I can speak openly, I just hope I help people. And that's all I pray about, like, in that way. Like, I just hope that people see it like that. But yeah, like, social media is crazy, you know, and it's got a lot bigger since the Lioness is really being successful. That has brought more attention to the WSL. Like, it's all of a sudden gone mad. So it's amazing, and it's got its benefits. 100% got its benefits, but at the same time, there's that scary part of, you know, if life's not going so good and, you know, football's not going so good, you can see it.
I want to touch on that a little bit. You did, obviously, with the pressure of media just constantly on players, constantly on your performance, skill and stuff like that. How do you, like, personally handle that on and off the pitch as well? Like, I know in your Anna article, you credited your mum a lot and how she was a massive support. Is that something you do reach out to when you're off the field, when you go through moments like that?
Yeah, definitely. And my partner's amazing, but my mum is like, I feel like when your mum's, you know, my mum's my person, but she's experienced everything with me, and she's seen, you know, every single part of Molly in that way. And like, I feel like she knows me better than I know myself. So sometimes there's nobody better to go to. And also, like, she's grown with football. You know, at the beginning, she did not understand football. Like, she didn't really get it. Now she understands, and she's so passionate about it. So when she knows maybe I've made a mistake, she sees it and she gets it. Like, my dad is, you know, he's always known football, and he's like probably the most football nerd that I know. Like, he just, whenever I make a mistake, I know my dad's going, Molly, seriously, you know, like, I know he's thinking that. He just won't say it. He used to say it, but he's grown to not say it. But I expect Robert to say that. I'm joking. But like, yeah, I guess, like, I don't know, I've gone off trail, but like, my family have always been such a huge support to me. I also do speak to psychologists often. The new Tottenham one that we've got is amazing, and I do speak to her. Sometimes, like, I actually really struggle to believe in myself as a footballer. I've always really struggled, never actually really ever believed in myself. And if I'm honest, that's something that I want to work on. But yeah, away from football, like, with, you know, the pressures, I definitely would say, yeah, my family, my partner, they're my go-tos in that way. And really just kind of like, I think it's really important for me, actually, crazy enough, like, my brother hates football. Like, he doesn't ever come to games. He's not really interested. And that's a breath of fresh air for me, because it doesn't make me think about it. So whenever I see him, it's about fashion, it's about holidays, it's about, you know, the other sides of life that are so fun. And you're like, you know, I love too, so, like, Love Island, whatever. Do you know what I mean? Like, the most random parts of life that you don't think about a lot of the time. Like that's what I talk to him about, and it's like so refreshing for me when I'm around him, because I don't focus on football. And if I start to pipe up, he's like, I don't care. You know, he's like, I really don't care, and I don't understand. So can we stop? Like, and I love that. Like, that's so good for me. So like, I think, yeah, my family are key on that. My dad's more like football, you know, like, whereas, you know, my mum and brother have got a lot of different elements to them in that way. So it's definitely healthy for me to have them around me sometimes. And I live really close to them now. So I'm lucky in that way that I've got them around the corner, that I just know that I can go to them if I need something.
Yeah, that's so important as well, isn't it? And like, obviously we've talked a lot about the, like, mental health and the important things, but like, in terms of like what you know, the whole thing of this is like playing football. Like, what, obviously you spoke a little bit earlier about sort of how you've done this, like, so far at Spurs, and obviously things are building. Like, what are your personal like football goals for next season? Like, where do you see it going with Spurs? Like, I think, you know, maybe there's another final on the cards for you. Like,
you sure you want me to answer that question? No,
you don't have to go into the secret tactics, but yeah,
we'll keep our mouth shut.
Don't worry. No, I think for me personally, like, you know, I've been fortunate enough to play a lot of football over the last 4 years. And I want to continue that. Like, I want to bring everything I can to Tottenham. My dream has always been to play for England. It's obviously hard to see that ever happening. But my focus isn't on that, and it never has been. My focus is always Tottenham and my club football. And I want to bring the best version of myself to every session, every game, every day. And that's really all I want in that way. As a club, you know, we want to keep pushing up that table. Next year, you know, let's try and get nearer to Champions League. Let's try and get ourselves to another cup final. Let's start pushing against the real top teams, the Arsenals, the Chelseas, like Man City. Like, let's really start competing again against them and maybe even beating them like we did. I've played Arsenal enough, and I've been on the end of many Arsenal losses. So, like, I wish. So, like, yeah, I've experienced a lot in that way. So, yeah. But I think, yeah, for Tottenham, it's just about what we can do as a group. You know, we've got to focus on ourselves. The league's getting stronger. Like, massive players coming into the league more and more and more. So you know that the pressure's on, and you know that in that way, like, you can't just be at, you know, 50% Molly. I have to be at 100% Molly every game. Remaining consistent is one thing that I've always pushed like myself to be. I feel like that's something that I want to continue as well. But yeah, obviously focusing on Tottenham is my most important thing. And away from football, like, I just want to keep, you know, being a mental health advocate, keep pushing for that. Yeah, and I guess it's just like in life for me, it's whatever happens now. I've had to kind of live like that from my experiences. So yeah, I just want to enjoy. I think, you know, sometimes football is so high pressure, and when we don't think about just ourselves as a person. So in that way, for me, I actually just want to be happy. Yeah. Like, it's just really simple. I just want to be happy. I want to love my life. And yeah, football obviously makes it easier when you're winning and you've got a good group of people around you.
I wanted to really mention that in an article because I thought it was incredible, the words you wrote in it. Everything, I read it top to bottom, and it was just beautiful. I resonated with a lot of it deeply. It was
long, so I'm impressed.
Oh, it was beautiful, honestly. Very well written. So I really wanted to touch on that because I will talk about it in the article. I won't go into too much detail. It's your words, not mine, but I'll definitely touch base with it. But I think I've covered everything I needed to. It was incredible.